Arthur Brooks spent a decade as a world-class classical musician before walking away from everything to study economics. Eventually, he became the head of one of the most influential think tanks in America. Today, a Harvard professor and best-selling author, he spent his career decoding why happiness isn't found in success alone, but it's built from the inside out.
Arthur, welcome back.
Thank you.
And before we get started, I think you should tell everyone actually about your day job or what you do.
Yeah. So my day job is I'm a teacher. I'm a college professor. I teach the science of happiness at the Harvard Business School. I also teach at the Harvard Kennedy School, which trains people to go work in government. And I research and think and teach about behavior, human behavior, what motivates people to do what they do. I'm a social scientist.
Yes, I was going to say you don't just teach there; you are actually a scientist.
So I've been a social scientist for the past 30 years. That's what I've been doing with my life.
A PhD social scientist.
Indeed. And so that's and I teach. People ask, you're a professor. I say, yeah, Harvard Business School. They say, what do you teach? Accounting, finance, marketing, supply chain management. Something really practical like that. I say, no, I teach happiness, and they think I'm lying.
Yeah.
But I teach happiness with the same seriousness that you would teach supply chain management. Look, your life is an enterprise. Your life is your startup. Treat it as such. Treat it with seriousness. Treat the inside of your head the same way you would treat your P&L statement.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line.
Your life is your startup, the biggest startup you're ever going to have.
Totally. It's the best enterprise you could be part of and the most serious one at that.
Yeah. Before we dive into the book, let's talk about your own journey, though, because people want to know your story because you are the professor of happiness. And how did you get here? At age 55, you left a very successful career.
Right.
And you were chief executive of a think tank. And now you started studying happiness. Was it to bring greater happiness to yourself?
For sure, and other people. You go through kind of not necessarily a dark night of the soul, but at certain points of your life, there are hinge points when you have to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing, and what is the mission of my own life? And the truth is, as I thought about it and prayed about it and talked to the people I love about it, it was very clear. The mission of my life is to lift people up and bring them together in ideas of love and happiness using.
Well, you were also doing that with the think tank, right?
I was trying, but it was good. It was good. I was grateful for having done that. I did that for 11 years, but it was time for somebody else to do that. And at 55, I still had plenty of gas in the tank, and I wanted to use everything that I knew for other people, and quite frankly, for me too. I wanted to dig into this thing that we now call happiness, and see whether or not it was achievable in my own life, and if it was, could I bring it to others?
Well, studies are showing that America is in a happiness slump.
Indeed.
I don't think you even need a study to figure that out. You just look around you, or you turn on your computer, you look at your phone. I mean, the news, the conspiracy theories, what is going on?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, the data are unambiguous. The experience that we all have that it feels like people are less happy, it's true. And there's kind of two things that we need to understand. You could say that there's problems in the climate and problems in the weather. The climate has been changing for happiness for decades now. Since the late 80s, maybe the early 90s, people have been gradually getting a little less happy year after year after year, just a little tiny bit. And that has to do with the fact that people are less likely to live a spiritual or religious life or find a life of meaning in those institutions. They're less likely to have a close relationship with their families. People have fewer and fewer friends who know them well. People have less of a sense that they're serving others with their work. That's the climate, and that's been a problem for a long time. Then there's weather, storms. There have been two big storms in the past couple of decades that we have to pay attention to. The first was around 2008, 2009. Now, I know everybody watching us is like, oh, obviously the financial crisis. That wasn't it.
I thought it was.
It was social media. Same time.
Oh.
That's when everybody started looking at social media. Everybody had the apps on their phone.
2009. That's when I got on what used to be Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The artist formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's when a couple of things were happening. So Twitter, for example, became a platform for people to be intensely negative. Instagram is not the same way. It's more of a platform where people compare themselves to others. But that had a big impact, especially on young people, especially on women and girls, 15 to 25 years old. It created a new kind of culture that was intensely comparative and problematic.
So social media actually, where people think it's bringing you closer together and you're communicating on Facebook, it's actually made people less happy.
Lonelier.
Lonelier.
Here's the weird thing. when you're super hungry, and it's like, oh man, I haven't eaten in, I haven't eaten in hours and hours and hours. And you pass by a fast food place.
Yeah.
You're like, good.
Yeah.
That'll get the job done. And so you gorge yourself and you're stuffed. You don't feel so good. An hour later, you're hungry again. What's up with
happened?
that?
Yeah.
The answer is you didn't meet your nutrient needs. All you met is your caloric needs. And so the result is you stay hungry even though you don't need the calories. Social media is the junk food of social life. It's like getting all of your calories.
That is a tweetable moment, but we don't tweet anymore. We X? What do we
X,
do?
is that what we call it? An
I
X?
don't know what you do. I don't know.
But so that's like getting all your meals at 7-Eleven.
Social media is the junk food
of social life. Social media is the junk food of social life. You'll get too many calories and not enough nutrients. That's the reason you'll binge and get lonelier.
Yes.
That's a problem.
Yes.
And a lot of young people have never developed in a way where they can finally figure out how to use it responsibly.
What's going to happen to the generation that was born at that time and that's all they've ever known?
We don't know. That's a big social experiment. That's a massive social experiment.
That we're in the midst of right now.
Yeah, and it's not as if social media is all evil. I mean, you can use it responsibly.
Absolutely.
If you would not let somebody into your house who bears you ill will, you shouldn't let them into your head. And that means you shouldn't be looking at the social media where somebody can be tweeting at you or Xing at you or telling you that you're this, you're that. And frankly, that's a big problem. That's the storm. That's the sort of a century.
Wow. So let's get happier.
Let's do that.
Let's get happier. On page 5, you say, happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a direction. I know that was a shift in mindset for many who are reading this book. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. And this is the problem with happiness is such a funny thing because we all want it. Every philosopher and theologian has talked about it. Everybody, I mean, how many times have people said that on your show?
I know. That's what I say in the beginning of the book. That
thousands of times.
Well, I became interested in this subject because every time I would sit with the audience and I'd say, "What do you want?" Everybody would always say, multiple people would answer, "I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy." Yeah. But yet, when you ask them, what does that look like for them? Hard to define.
For sure. And part of the reason is because it's not something that you can define in any meaningful way. We think it's a feeling. We think it's a destination. Mm-hmm. It isn't either. Happy feelings are nothing more than emotions, and emotions are nothing more than information that we need in reaction to the outside environment. And as a destination, why would you want to be completely happy as the destination? You'd be dead in a week because you actually need negative emotions and experiences to train you, to keep you vigilant, to keep you safe. And to be happy.
Yeah, to keep you alert, to keep you on it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe when I die and I'm in heaven and I see the face of God, the beatific vision will be pure happiness. But on earth, I'm telling you, I need my negative emotions to keep me alive and safe. I need my negative experiences to learn and grow. And so that's what people, they want to stay alive and safe, but they don't want the feelings that keep them alive and safe. And that's this conflict that they have, which is why they feel so unsettled.
Okay, so I think, particularly in this world of social media, people think if I just get that, I mean, I see people toasting on private jets and I see them, on beaches and, their hair blowing in the wind and all that. And people think, well, if I just had that, I could be happy. But we know, you have the science to back it up, that there are really 4 pillars. And if you don't have all of those pillars working in your life, you will eventually end up feeling not necessarily sad, but lonely or distanced or disconnected.
That's right.
So the 4 pillars are.
Yeah, the 4 pillars. There's kind of the 4 pillars you think that you need, and there's 4 pillars that you really do need. The idols, the things that look right but aren't, are money, power, pleasure, and fame. Those are the things that Mother Nature says. You get those, you're going to be happy.
Money, power, pleasure, and fame.
That's right, but she lies. Mother Nature lies. She lies a lot because she wants us to keep running, right? Because,
but is Mother Nature telling us that, or is society telling us that? Because I think Mother Nature is telling us that it's the 4 pillars.
Well, Mother Nature gives us these imperatives because she wants us to be hungry. And she wants us to survive and pass on our genes.
Yes.
And the way that you do that is with money, power, pleasure, and fame. Right? And she doesn't want us to figure out that those things never really satisfy, so that we'll keep running and running and running. That's called the hedonic treadmill.
You write that.
What we really want, and this is backed up by a lot of psychology, neuroscience, behavioral economics, all the research that we want, is that there's kind of 4 things that are the virtuous things that we should be looking for. That Mother Nature doesn't necessarily tell us, but that if we take the divine path in life, religious or not religiously understood, a better path in life, we'll be happy. And those are faith, family, friends, and work that serves. Now, if you give any teenage kid the choice between money, power, pleasure, and honor, or faith, family,
friends,
good friends and good times and a work that serves others, I mean,
They're
what are they going to take?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, our society does aid and abet Mother Nature's lie.
Yeah.
Because, the marketing colossus tells us that if you get that car, man, you're going to be really happy. If you get that job, you get that money. If you get that 100,000 Instagram followers or whatever your number happens to be, it's never high enough, by the way. You're going to be happy. But that's a lie, is the bottom line. There's nothing wrong with those things.
Yeah.
But if you get those things, if we are so lucky to get those things, they should only ever be in service of the big four, the good four. They should only ever be in service. They should be intermediate goals. A rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike, Manhattan, where you're trying to get, is faith. And by that,
how do you use that money, power, pleasure, and fame to enhance your faith, family, and work?
And friendship.
And friendships. How do you do
Basically,
that?
your love.
Yes, your
the love in your life.
Yeah.
And the love in the lives of the people around you. That's really what those worldly goals should be used for if you want to have any shot at true happiness.
Yeah. So one of the things we talk about in the book is how enjoyment and satisfaction and purpose are the macronutrients of happiness. So let's talk about enjoyment first and the difference between pleasure and enjoyment.
Yeah, this is a big mistake that a lot of people make. I mean, one of the things that we do in the book is we disabuse people of mistaken notions of happiness. So happiness is not a feeling, happiness is not a destination, it's a direction toward happierness, et cetera. And another one has to do with this idea that I'm going to be happy if I can just hit the pleasure lever over and over and over again.
Yes.
Here's some words that have never been uttered. I'm really happy because of methamphetamine. Nobody's ever said that. That is not what people say. And the reason is because if you use illicit drugs and drugs of abuse, you're going to hit the pleasure lever. It's going to feel good, but it's not going to make you happy. It's going to lead to addiction. It's going to lead to a superphysiological level of dopamine in your brain. Yeah. And all that does is gives you a tiny little reward and then goes away. A tiny little reward and it goes away.
That's why you have to keep getting more and more and more, and it doesn't fix it.
And then what happens is because that becomes an incredibly isolated thing.
And that's regardless if it's methamphetamine or if it's your work or if it's shopping or if it's whatever it is that's just giving you pleasure.
For sure. I mean, that can be gambling, that can be eating, that can be all kinds of things. That if whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
And here's how you know if it's a problem.
Yeah.
If you're hitting the pleasure lever over and over and over again and you're alone, then you know there's a problem. That's what it is. And that actually, there inside the diagnosis, there is the solution. That's why Anheuser-Busch doesn't have a beer commercial of a guy alone in his apartment pounding a 12-pack. That's why that's not the ad. That's because that doesn't lead to happiness. That leads to problems.
Because doesn't that look sad and pitiful?
Yeah, for sure. No, what they have is a guy with his buddies making a memory. The guy with his friends or his family making a memory. And therein lies the answer to this. Is not that you got to...
Lots of advertising does that.
Totally, that's what all the beer commercials do.
Yeah,
because they want you to be happier when you use their product.
Yeah,
and the reason is they want you to have enjoyment, not just pleasure. Now, a lot of the problems that we have in kind of a puritanical culture about this would say that the solution is if you're hitting the pleasure lever repeatedly by yourself, get rid of the pleasure lever. But that's not necessarily the solution.
Because pleasure has its pleasures.
Totally.
Yeah.
You need to add two things.
Yeah.
You need to add.
In order to have enjoyment.
Exactly.
Okay.
You have to, the source of pleasure plus people that you love, plus memories.
Yes.
Now, you don't have to forego the sources of pleasure. You have to add the people in the memory. Now, you got to take this.
People plus memory makes it enjoyment. I think this is so great. Whatever it is so this is an easy formula. Whatever it is you take pleasure in, find a way to add other people into that pleasure, and it becomes more enjoyable.
When you make
you're making memories, babe.
That's right. And so, I'm not saying don't go to Vegas. Just don't go alone. 4 o'clock in the morning, going by yourself. No. Go with your buddies. Go with your spouse. Go with your friends.
Yeah. And also accepting unhappiness. You say, without unhappiness, you wouldn't survive, learn, or come up with good ideas. Even if you could get rid of your unhappiness, it would be a huge mistake. The secret to the best life is to accept your unhappiness so you can learn and grow and manage the feelings that result. I think that's hard for people because what does that mean to accept the unhappiness? When you say accept, it often feels like, so I'm just supposed to like do nothing. I'm just supposed to accept it. I'm supposed to surrender to it. I'm unhappy.
Yeah, no, that's not, it's not the idea. The truth is that you need to accept it as normal. And this is a big part of our culture today, is that we think that if we feel unhappiness or pain, there's something wrong with us. That there's evidence that something's broken if you feel unhappy. You know, if you're in college, you go to campus counseling and say, I'm really feeling anxious and I'm really feeling depressed. And you know, my university, it's a really hard university. If you're not anxious when you're at Harvard University, that's the problem. That means you're not working hard enough. Maybe that's when you need therapy, quite frankly. You know, when I talk to young people, they say, I was feeling really anxious about my studies. Like, of course you are. That's a normal thing. That's the acceptance. The acceptance of the fact that you have feelings, including negative feelings, and you'd be dead if you didn't. That's
who's walking around at Harvard not feeling anxious,
Totally. When something bad happens to you, you benefit from it tremendously if you analyze it like a scientist.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons that I tell my students they keep a failure journal.
Yeah.
They keep a disappointment journal.
Talk about that.
We talk about it in the book, absolutely. We talk about how you can do it.
Yes.
When something bad happens to you, write it down and think about it. Don't ruminate on it. Don't have it be kind of like a ghost, you know, around haunting the limbic system of your emotions. No. Use it as an opportunity to think about what actually happened. And when you do that, by the way, when you think about it as if you were analyzing a problem that somebody else had, then you will learn and grow. So the point is, don't ruminate, understand. That's the way that you can actually use the information, take the time to understand these things appropriately, and learn and grow.
The second macronutrient of happiness, satisfaction, is that thrill from accomplishing a goal you work for, is what you say. Why is satisfaction also the key to getting happier?
We're made to make progress. Human beings are made to make progress. We want to achieve. The funny thing is that people always think when I get to my goal, then I'm going to be finally happy. But that's just incredible fallacy. That's called the arrival fallacy. You know, like you and I are doing high fives because the book hit #1 in the New York Times bestseller list. But if we're like, okay, now Oprah and Arthur are going to be happy forever, we're kidding ourselves.
No.
Next week, we're going to be doing a new project, doing a new thing. That's the truth. The arrival fallacy is once I finally get the money, once I finally get the marriage, once I finally get the car, the house, the boat, then all will be well. The truth is that the greatest joy comes from the progress toward the accomplishment, even in spite of the fact that it requires a lot of struggle.
Yeah.
Satisfaction is that moment that you hit it, which is a real moment of joy. Now, the paradox in that is that it doesn't last, and it can't last.
That's why he couldn't get no satisfaction.
Yeah, that's right. And the truth is you can't keep no satisfaction. That's the real problem. I mean, and the truth is if you couldn't get it, you wouldn't keep trying and trying and trying like he sings. The problem is you can't keep no satisfaction. And that's what seems kind of like a bitter fruit with the satisfaction dilemma. You need to struggle. If you don't struggle, by the way, there is no satisfaction. If my students cheat on my exam and they get an A, there's no satisfaction.
There's no satisfaction.
They do an all-nighter and they work really hard and they get an A. They're like, yes.
Okay. So you need enjoyment, you need satisfaction, and you also need purpose.
Yeah.
Those are the macronutrients.
Right. Like the protein, carbohydrates, and fat.
Okay.
Of happiness.
and how okay, so explain to people how the macronutrients fit into the pillars.
Yeah. So the macronutrients are basically the elements that we find that you need in balance and abundance.
Yeah.
You can't just have a life of enjoyment. You also need satisfaction. You need goals. You need to struggle. And you need meaning, which is the why, the essence of your life. You need those things. The happiest people have those three things, and they work on them. They take them seriously. And we spend tons of time about how to actually do that.
Yeah.
Then once
this is why this is so great for y'all. And I mean y'all, meaning myself too, because when
me.
And when we figured it out, I mean, that's the baseline. You need enjoyment, you need satisfaction, and you need meaning and purpose.
Right.
And let's talk about what meaning and purpose means, because I think people get all confused about the purpose. It's like, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my purpose.
Right. The last macronutrient is meaning or purpose. Meaning is the essence of your life. You know, who am I? It's this whole finding yourself thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I got to find myself. That there's a quiz that you got to give yourself. Mm-hmm. And you have to have real sincere answers to two questions. Now, if you don't have them, it means there's a crisis of meaning in your life.
Yeah.
Question number 1, why are you alive?
Yes.
And again, I can't tell you that. I mean, it's like you got to have your own answer to that.
Yes.
Go in search of that answer. And the second, for what are you willing to die today? And the answer probably shouldn't be nothing.
Yeah.
Right? There's got to be something. And once you actually find the answers to those questions, it's extraordinary, Oprah. You know, when you see this, you know a lot of my family,
Yes.
not my family. And my son you haven't met yet because he's still an active duty Marine. He's a scout sniper in the U.S. Marine Corps. And, you know, he struggled in high school because meaning, you know, it's like he was goofing off and he wasn't even having fun because he's like, who am I? And so I'm a business school professor. I make my kids do a business plan when they're a junior in high school, you know, a business plan because the enterprise of life.
Yeah.
Right. And they're entrepreneurs. I'm VC. I'm venture capital. So I deserve a business plan. I realize it's pretty nerdy, but there you go.
I like it.
Yeah. And so and if it's not original, I send it back for revisions. So this is my son, Carlos. He's a good boy. And Carlos, like his business plan's I don't know. I don't believe it. So I say, you need to find the answers to these questions. How are you going to find the answers to these questions? So in his business plan, he says, I'm not going to college, which is fine. I didn't either till I was 30. You know, it took me a long time to get through college too. I wasn't ready. He went to work on a farm. He spent 2 years on a dryland wheat farm in Idaho. Then he joined the Marines. And he's 23 now. He's married. He's got it going on. And he's got answers to those two questions. And I asked him, Carlos, why were you born? Why are you alive? He said, because God made me to serve. For what are you willing to die today? He says, for my family, for my faith, for my friends, and for the United States of America. Boom.
Boom.
And, you know, that's not everybody's answers who are watching us.
Yeah.
But that boy's got answers.
At 23.
At 23. And his life is different than it was. His life has meaning. It's beautiful. As a father, I couldn't be prouder. I couldn't be prouder of the enterprise that he's building of his life.
Chapter 2 is entitled The Power of Metacognition.
Yeah.
Explain metacognition. I think this is just one of the biggest contributions to people getting happier in their lives once you get the metacognition.
It's
thing.
changed my life.
Yeah.
It's just changed my life. And part of the reason is because people go through life relatively unexamined in their emotions and just hoping that their emotions will get better and with a complete inability to separate their own essence from their emotions. Mm-hmm. And that's a crazy thing to do. You're not your emotions. Look, I'm not my hand. But my hand is not completely independent. It was like, it's like one of those old horror movies. But that's how people are with their emotions, where their emotions are controlling them. Mm-hmm. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. It's the ability to look at your own self with a certain intellectual remove at a distance. It's putting distance between your feelings and your reactions and doing it on purpose. When you have that ability, your life isn't going to be the same. It just isn't, because you're not going to wonder, like, is something bad going to happen to me tomorrow? By the way, answer, yes. Am I going to feel bad about it? I'm going to decide how I'm going to work on this. I'm going to decide my reactions. I'm going to substitute emotions that are more appropriate for what I'm doing. Now, you have emotions for a reason. You're not going to block them out. But once you have metacognitive skill, where you can put space between the emotions that are simply signals from your brain about what's going on around you, and the
emotions are there to tell you that something's off. And you need to do something about it.
It's just information.
It's just
information. That,
your emotions are just information.
That's all they are.
You can get that. And if you can separate yourself from the thing that you're feeling, feel the feeling, and then take control.
Exactly right.
Yourself.
And the way that you do that is by putting space between the emotions and your reactions.
Tell us how to do that.
So you do that by studying yourself. Now,
don't you do that also by observing the feeling?
Yeah, for
exactly
sure.
as though it were happening to somebody else.
That's how
you identify what this feeling is. You say, "Oh gosh, I'm feeling so sad right now. I'm feeling so put upon. I'm feeling so betrayed." Whatever it is.
Right.
But you separate the feeling from yourself. You're observing all those feelings inside your body, so that you see that the feeling is really different from you. You're in control of the feeling.
Exactly. And you're able to react in an appropriate way. I mean, it's we're so maladapted to the way that our feelings occur to us. I mean, I talk to people all the time where, once again, back to social media.
Yeah.
I got a bad tweet. And what did it do? It raised your stress hormones are through the roof. You've got butterflies in your stomach and the whole thing. The reason for that is because nature wants you to run away from a saber-toothed tiger by injecting stress hormones into your system when you think there's a threat. But or you don't want to wander the frozen tundra and die alone. But, folks, look around. No tundra. Twitter's not tundra. And so the result is metacognition is very important so that we can
But we
react
make
in
it
an
feel
appropriate-
like it
for
is.
sure. And
It
if you
is.
don't have an examined life,
Yes.
then you're not going to be able to make those distinctions. And so you can actually laugh at yourself. When you're actually observing your own emotions at a certain remove, as if they were happening to another person, and you see yourself freaking out because of a tweet, you will start laughing. You'll be like, really, Arthur? Really?
Really, yes.
You're really, I mean, it's like you're a grown man. You have a PhD, you're a social scientist, you're supposed to know all this stuff, and somebody said a mean thing to you on Twitter, and you're acting as if, an axe murderer is chasing you. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, and life gets better, and that's what metacognition can do for all of us if we have the right techniques. So we feel resentment, and we feel bitterness, or we feel anger a lot, and the reason is because we're evolved to have those as dominant emotions. This is called the negativity bias.
Yeah.
The negativity bias is that, we actually have more brain space dedicated to producing emotions that are negative than positive because negative emotions on the Pleistocene keep you alive.
Yeah.
Somebody smiling sweetly at you in the tribe, that's great. Somebody frowning at you might be a big problem when you step outside.
And you will remember that frown longer than you remember the 12 people who smiled.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's evolved to keep you alive.
Yes.
The problem is it's hugely maladapted. And it'll ruin big parts of our lives because we're negative all the time. It's also unrealistic. The truth
It's why in the beginning of the Oprah show, when we were still just, taking phone calls and people were writing real letters by snail mail, if somebody wrote something negative or said something, I would track them down. I'd get 1,000 great letters. I wouldn't respond, but that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. And one negative thing, I would track them down. I'd find them in Louisiana, Alabama, wherever you were. And then call them up and say, excuse me, this is Oprah calling. They're like, what?
I know, it's like, I know.
Yeah. So you're saying we're born that way?
We're born that way. Absolutely, we're born that way. And sometimes it's great because it saves your life. But a lot of times it just embitters beautiful things. And it's unrealistic. It's not even right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That you basically, when you feel the resentment welling up inside you, when you feel the anger, even when you feel fear, that's when you start to reflect on the sources of gratitude.
And not just reflect, because it's not enough sometimes just to think about it. I have volumes of gratitude journals.
Right. This is a really good thing because this is the ultimate
volumes of gratitude
metacognition.
journals. And now I hear everybody talking about it.
Gratitude journals are great. Everybody should keep a gratitude journal. The failure journal is fantastic. We talk about it in the book in all kinds of ways that you can take your sources of disgust and discontent and turn them into learning and growth.
Yeah.
But the gratitude journal is a must for everybody. And there are a lot of ways to do it. The easiest way is every Sunday night, write down 5 things you're grateful for. It doesn't matter how stupid they are. Whatever it happens to be that delights your heart a little bit. And then, Monday through Saturday, look at those things and ponder them a little bit. Give up maybe a word of thanks, maybe a little prayer. Sunday, update it. The data say that on average, after 10 weeks, you'll be 12% happier.
I believe that.
Yeah.
What did you learn or change?
What I learned is that days where you are confronting unhappiness or feelings of, everything isn't perfect, is a part of the balance of happiness. And that you need both in order to maintain being happier. And so I learned to appreciate the times when there is unhappiness, because that unhappiness has something to reveal to you that is going to later lead to you being happier. That's what I learned.
So you keep thinking that the solution, that the formula for satisfaction is have more. What do you need? More. More what? Money, power, pleasure, fame, internet exposure, Instagram followers, admiration of strangers. You fill in the blanks. You know what we're talking about, worldly rewards, right? But that's wrong. The real formula for satisfaction that endures is all the things that you have divided by all the things that you want. Haves divided by wants. Now remember back to high school. You can raise the value of a fraction by increasing the numerator or by more efficiently decreasing the denominator. You want lasting satisfaction? You don't need to have more. You need to want less. That's the formula. Well, tell us your definition of faith then.
Knowing that there's something bigger than yourself. Believing that there's something larger than you, that you're not the center of it all. And whether that faith is in organized religion or whether it is in whatever you call a higher power or nature or the divine or whatever it is, just knowing that you are not the center of it all. We were just saying yesterday, it's really hard, would be really challenging to maintain a level of satisfaction, enjoyment, and meaning thinking you're the center of it all. So knowing that there's something bigger than you, whatever you call that something.
Right. You need peace and perspective in your life is the bottom line. And so one of the things that we talk about is that there's a portfolio that the happiest people all maintain. It's an investment portfolio. You can teach it. Yeah, I teach at HBS, so I can talk this way. There's an investment, but it's a happiness 401k. And you need to put a deposit in in all 4 accounts every day. Your family, your friends, your work that serves other people, and your faith. And by faith, as Oprah just indicated, that means something transcendent to your daily life. Look, if you're left to your devices, Mother Nature is going to make you focus on my job and my classes and my money and my lunch and my commute. It's so boring. It's just so tedious. If you zoom out, wow, life changes, and you need to do that every day. Look, for me, I'm a Catholic. It's the most important thing in my life, right? But as a social scientist, I will tell you, I've seen people who study the Stoic philosophers and get the same benefit or get the same sense of relief, or people who walk in nature before dawn without their devices, or the people who adopt a meditation practice. You can get that sense of the transcendent. Look, you got to get small is the bottom line, because if you're too big, well, that's not reality. None of us is that big, except for Oprah. And
Sweet. That's sweet. Thank you.
I mean,
well, this is the other thing I think that's really important that I've come to on my own. I just realized that you reach a point where you have to ask yourself, what is enough? What is enough? And, I live a really huge life surrounded by, and it was actually a goal of mine when I was first doing the color purple in 1985. I remember writing in my journal then that if I ever get enough money, I want a house surrounded by beautiful things. And so I have done that. I have achieved that over and then over and then over. And I look around and I say, okay, you got enough. It's okay. I'm satisfied. I have all the things that I need, and so now I can focus on how do I take what I know, what I've gained, what my who I've become in the world, and how can I use that in service to other people in a way that makes them happier. And that, for me, that's part of what this book is about.
Here's the reason. I've been doing a lot of media, sometimes with Oprah. We do a little bit of TV together, but a lot alone. I've been doing a lot of interviews. And they always want to know what it's like to work with Oprah Winfrey. And they always want to know,
I like that.
Is she happy? And I say she's a lot happier than most people I've met. Nobody's happy, but she's doing a good job. Why? They say, why? Is it because of the lovely things? Is it because of the incredible renown? Is it because of the mythical success and the iconic position in American culture? It's because how she used those things. Here's the deal. See, you want money, power, pleasure, and fame. That's what you want, right? If you make those things the goals, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. The goals are faith, family, friends, and work that serves. You can use money, power, pleasure, and fame, but only as a springboard to those other things. This is how she cracked the code.
One of my favorite quotes of all time is Martin Luther King, who says, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great because greatness is determined by service. And what I've found is no matter what it is you're doing for other people, no matter how tedious or menial the job may seem to you, that if you shift the paradigm of whatever your work is to how do I use this to serve? How can I be of service? Whether it's your art or your skills, your talents, your whatever it is you're offering, if it is offered in service, the shifting of the paradigm to I'm going to use this to serve makes a world of difference in the energy that in the way you put that energy out into the world and the way that it comes back to you. That's what I learned from doing